And now, coming to you live from Huntsville Attic Studios, it's Pop Culture Philosophers. And here are your hosts, Rockin, Robbie, Billups, and John Hammertime Holshoe.
Hey everybody, it's the Pop Culture Philosophers, coming to you live from the Huntsville Attic in beautiful Huntsville, Alabama, the Rocket City. Tonight we're going to be talking about Steven Spielberg, great director, famous American director, one of the most popular directors of all time. Of course, I'm John Hammertime Holshoe. With me, as always, Rockin' Robbie Billups.
Hey John, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited. Great director. I'm excited. This is a podcast I've probably been more excited about in a long time than other. The last podcast, I didn't give two shits about.
Every other show,
I
you're
phoned
just like,
it in.
Screw it.
Yeah, I usually show up half asleep, half drunk, but today I'm excited.
Okay, I'm glad you're excited. I'm excited too. I remember this is one that we did a video of this, John, like on YouTube, like top 5 Spielberg films, and it was like
our top 5 combined.
Yeah, it was like a collective thing. So like this, my list at the end of the show is going to be completely different than that list, right? I'm sure yours will be too.
I went and rewatched the video.
I remember us fighting.
Yeah,
like I was
really
like, Jaws should be lower and Color Purple should be on there. You're like, Color Purple shouldn't even be on there.
Well, you wanted the Crystal Skull movie to be number 1, which I thought was odd.
Yes. Well, it was still fresh in my mind. Now, I'm very excited to be here talking about Steven Spielberg, another director-focused podcast. With us, as usual, Justin Goldsmith.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
An actor.
Yeah.
Would you like to work with Steven Spielberg?
Yeah, oh, hell yeah.
That'd be cool. He's like in his 70s now, right? So he's getting up there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he is in his 70s.
Still making movies and very prolific. And once again, did you say the home of the Rocket City again?
I don't.
Okay. Also with us, speaking of the Rocket City, we have Dashing Drew Madsen here.
A.K.A. the Red Rocket. Dashing Drew.
You're not supposed to share that name.
Oh, that was a secret between me and Drew.
How you doing, Drew?
I'm doing all right.
You excited to talk about Steven Spielberg?
Man, yeah, he's one of the most popular directors of all time.
Yeah, man.
And like most major franchises he created.
He is a franchise, basically, isn't he?
Yeah.
There are definitely some directors who keep getting work, and you're like, why? But he's not one of those directors. He's one of those directors that keeps getting work, and you understand why, because he's just a magnificent director. He's got such a wide variety of work, too. He does dramas, I wouldn't say he done like romantic comedies, but he's done, more serious films, science fiction. Just a great actor. Great actor, great director. Has he acted anything, actually?
He's had cameos in some movies.
Yeah. He was in that Animaniacs.
Yeah. And
it's Spielberg Presents Animaniacs.
And he did Tiny Toons as well. But he was in, he's got some cameos in some of the Star Wars films, for sure. I know that.
Oh, and then Freakazoid, I think, was also his.
Oh,
he produced it or something.
That's a great show.
Oh, Freakazoid is the most underrated animated show.
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Mr. Steven Spielberg?
So he was born in Japan. He's a ninja. No, he's an American filmmaker, an extremely successful, popular director and producer. His films are enjoyed both financial success and critical success, earning him 2 Academy Awards for Best Director. He was born in Ohio, to an Orthodox Jewish family. They moved several times, eventually ending up in Arizona, where as a young boy, he kind of found his calling, his love for films. He made his first home movie at the age of 12, which was really impressive. And at 13, even more impressive, he won an award for a 40-minute war film he made using his cast of high school friends. Eventually, his parents divorced, unfortunately. His dad moved to California. He went to California with his dad, and there he actually enrolled to California State University, and while there, he got a paid intern job. Oh, I'm sorry, unpaid. I should point to completely different. At Universal Studios in the editing department. I mean, how cool would that be to be an intern at Universal? And while at Universal, he actually made a small film called Amblin. That's where Amblin Entertainment comes from. And the vice president of the company saw his work, was impressed by it, and gave him a 7-year directing contract. So right out the gate, already got a contract.
Shit.
Yeah, he was really impressed. Most of what he was doing initially was TV shows, and, he wasn't doing original stuff. He did do some made-for-TV films, including Duel, and then eventually he did his first feature film was The Sugarland Express. It got a lot of critical praise, but financially it didn't do too well. And then he continued to do more television, and then the directors wanted to make a film adaptation of this book, Jaws, and they chose him for Jaws. And it was sort of he said it was his crucible. It's like his massive undertaking that he had to do And then when he came out the other side, obviously he was this great director because Jaws really changed his career completely. And Jaws also kind of spawned it spawned the big summer blockbuster as well. And he would do other blockbusters, E.T., the Indiana Jones films, all of them, Jurassic Park. I mean, he is a staple in the film business, and he's also one of those directors that you can kind of bank on. If you invest money into Spielberg, he's gonna pay it back tenfold.
That's very nice.
He's a great director.
He's a very great director, and like you said, he is synonymous with the blockbuster. You know, Jaws was the first movie to hit $100 million. It brought about this age of film in which we all grew up in. You know, Steven Spielberg's directly responsible for some of our favorite films when we were kids. Gremlins, Back to the Future. He produced those films.
Yeah, he produced or directed a lot of great
Poltergeist, you know?
films.
And so, like, the Indiana Jones movies that he directed and Close Encounters, those movies had a big impact, not just on us, but obviously other artists that are, you know, in our age range or whatever. And, like, he influenced film.
Yeah, and look at one of the big first summer blockbuster was Jaws. The next big summer blockbuster wasn't until 1977. It skipped a year, but it was Star Wars. But it was him who introduced John Williams to George Lucas, who did the score for. Can you imagine Star Wars without that score?
No, not at all.
I mean, really. So inadvertently, he helped, you know, direct, you know, that music in the direction. I mean, he's touched a lot in Hollywood.
Yeah.
His fingerprints are on a lot of things besides the stuff he's directed.
So, of course, he is synonymous with the blockbuster, but he's got a wide variety of stories that he tells. He's a very versatile director as well. He's also done, so he's known for these big, like, action, sci-fi, adventure, summer blockbusters, but he's also done, comedies, dramas, historical dramas, war movies, kids movies, and now musicals, because his next film is West Side Story.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So now he's going to be doing a musical to add that to his repertoire, right? So Justin, you're a fan of cinema. We all are. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
What do you want to speak about Spielberg's versatility in his storytelling?
I mean, he's done like all of the kinds of movies there are. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a genre that he hasn't done. He's done sci-fi, action, adventure, drama, whatever genre you would put The Color Purple in.
He should do a Western.
He has? Well, Indiana Jones, sort
No.
of.
It was
The Last
basically,
Crusade.
it was pitched to him from George Lucas as James Bond, but Western, without the gadgets.
Yeah.
And that's how it was pitched to him
But it's not a Western.
Well, it's more Western
It's an
than
adventure, pulpy.
Star Wars.
Yeah, he should do a Western. That'd be great.
You should.
He's not versatile enough.
Yeah. What out of all the different genres that he works with, what's your favorite?
Oh, God. I guess sci-fi.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to be right there with you.
Yeah,
Science fiction.
100%.
Yeah.
They don't have
John,
to ask
yeah?
me. Science fiction.
Yeah, I'm a huge sci-fi. What about you, Drew?
I like his historical ones more because, I mean, Catch Me If You Can is a true story.
Great movie.
Schindler's List is a historical fiction, and then Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, Amistad even.
Amistad, yeah. One of my
Lincoln?
friends, Lincoln. One of my friends is a lawyer, and they actually like watched through Amistad, and it was like, yeah, this is actually what happens. Like it happens.
Is that what they do? Is that what they do at lawyer school now?
Lawyer school? Yeah, we watched Steven Spielberg.
films. Amistad one day, E.T. the next.
Yeah. What about you, John? I mean, what do you got to speak about? You know, he's known for these blockbusters, but he's got so many other kind of films. But basically, they all are usually huge critical and financial successes.
I enjoyed the sci-fi a lot, but I do like his period pieces. I did like Saving Private Ryan. I thought Lincoln was phenomenal. Great casting, just a great film, and everything he touches usually turns to gold. It seems like whatever it is, it's not like he's just bored. He's like, I'm just here for the paycheck. He seems to really put his heart into it and do a good job. And maybe part of that as the studio is saying, oh, we got this great script and we only want it to go to the best. Or maybe it's just because he's taken it. I don't know who's always writing the film, if he's part of the rewrites, but I'm sure he has a part of the casting. You know, final approval because he's worked with some of the greatest in Hollywood. Speaking of which, when I saw Catch Me If You Can, which I loved the film, by the way, I was still not on board the DiCaprio train. I'm like, this kid is so overrated. And then I saw that movie. I'm like, no, no, this kid's amazing.
He's like, he's
So
outstanding.
that's where I changed my tune on DiCaprio, and that's because of Spielberg. Thank you, Spielberg.
Yeah, not only is he very versatile, he's a very prolific director, too. There are some years where he does 2 films. You know, like Schindler's List and Jurassic Park came out the same year. Like, what the hell? You know,
They're both
and there's
massive.
Yes, right? Huge. And it's like, how do you go from one to the other? You know what I'm saying? But this dude just knows so much about making film. And like you said, he crafted the blockbuster.
He did. He crafted the blockbuster. He gave us Jaws in 1975. Big deal. So it was the first mega hit. And it was a great film, but a lot of it's owed to the big advertising campaign that Universal put behind the film. So they spent a record amount promoting the film. So you were inundated with radio ads and TV ads and film trailers, more so than ever before for a single film. In addition to that, and this was a big deal at the time, when a film was released, they'd say, oh, coming out, Christmas or whatever. Well, no, it would come out in Christmas in New York and L.A. or Detroit or whatever, and then a couple weeks later, those prints would be shared with a different theater in, say, Chicago or something like that. They didn't produce enough prints to go to all these theaters. It just financially it didn't make sense for the theater companies to print all these. But Jaws was different. They produced enough prints to get it in all the theaters in the same weekend so everybody could go see Jaws. And it was such a big, epic event. And first off, the book actually was popular, so people knew of the product before they went in. But the soundtrack, the special effects, so people were going to see this, and they were going to see it more than once. So that helped with the whole financial success. $7 million opening weekend. It set a record. Eventually beat by Star Wars in 1977.
Isn't that just crazy that you just said it set a record with $7 million?
Yeah.
Isn't that just crazy with today's numbers?
Well, converted to today's dollars, that's $100 bazillion.
Wow.
I could be off.
Wow.
I could be off.
I don't know, man. Our math here at PCP is pretty impeccable.
And he's continued the blockbuster. I mean, there's been other people who have done summer blockbusters, but he did not only that, but also Raiders of the Lost Ark in 80, so shortly after that. 82 was E.T., I mean, Jurassic Park was in the 90s, but he's been consistently one part of the blockbuster team continually to the point where, I don't know where we'd be without the summer. Without him, I don't know if the summer blockbuster would ever been.
Well, I think cinema would be completely different without Steven Spielberg.
So he shaped it, and we do count on that summer film. And now you notice too, it's Memorial Day now. No, now it's March. They've been bumping it up to get that.
Yeah.
Extra summer money.
His last summer film was in a March release, right? Ready Player One? Yeah.
Yeah, try to get it ready for the summer because you're getting it out ahead of the curve. People are going on spring break, and then you still got that summer crowd because it's going to still be in the theater.
Yeah.
So he gave us the summer blockbuster. We'll be forever grateful for that.
And the cool thing about blockbusters is that they have a lot of fun theater memories, right, John?
Yeah, there's some things that stick with you if you go to the theater. I went to the drive-in. We drove through Wendy's.
We went drive-through theater.
We used to go to the drive-in more, but there's some things that definitely stuck with me as a kid, and most of those are Spielberg moments. I'm going to start with Goldsmith. Is there a Spielberg moment in the theater that you remember fondly?
I do have one, but legit, the only Spielberg movie I've actually ever seen in the theaters was Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Oh, my
Wow.
God.
You gotta be kidding.
I'm not even...
How did you get on the show? Who let you in?
But I'll tell you, my favorite Spielberg moment in the theater was when I went to see, I think it was the Evil Dead remake, and there was a trailer for the Jurassic Park re-release in IMAX.
Okay.
And I kidded out so hard. I was actually on a date. And, I thought she was going to get up and leave. Because I was just like, oh, I'm going to go see that.
Yeah,
She was
okay.
saving
Speaking
so
of
much
which,
time.
how is your mom doing?
And then I didn't go see it.
Anyway.
Shut up.
Drew, is there a particular Spielberg moment that stands with you in the theater? Something ever changed your life?
Well, unlike this phony, I've actually seen a good Spielberg movie. Good. I saw The Lost World in theater when I was 7, and I always remember it just being when all of the guys disappear to the velociraptors into the long grass. I remember that vividly, and that's why I kind of have a soft spot for Lost World more than I should have.
Yeah,
No, it's a
okay,
good movie.
yeah. Well, I mean, come on.
It's a good movie.
It's not Jurassic Park. I think that's
It's a
the problem.
good book.
Oh,
It's a great book.
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Justin doesn't read. Move on.
Robbie, have you ever seen more than the Crystal Skull in the theater? And do you have any fond memories?
I watched Crystal Skull in the theater, and I don't think it's as bad as people I don't think it's a good film, but
Yeah.
I enjoy it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't.
It's got its moments.
I think it's.
Yeah.
I think it's better than The Lost World.
People are talking about like this stuff is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
not aliens. What about aliens, bruh?
What?
All the other movies?
And
no,
talking-
the other stuff's
That's
real.
the most plausible thing.
No, I believe the other stuff.
But I'm going to tell you this. Like, out of all the, what I liked about that was the other ones are set in the 1930s, right? So they deal with like the Nazis, they deal with the biblical relics and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? And this one was the 50s, so it was going to be like about the Cold War, and it was going to
Yeah.
be like in the 50s. There's science fiction, there's aliens. So I liked how
Yeah.
it kind of was going to like mimic the popular fiction of its time.
Yeah.
That's what I like about Crystal Skull. Plus, I'm always fascinated with crystal skulls. Like, where did they come from?
Like the tequila or vodka? Is that vodka?
It's a vodka.
it's
yeah,
vodka.
Yeah, it's a vodka. yeah.
And that also comes from Aliens. It says
Isn't that Dan
stamped on
Aykroyd's?
there.
But
it is, yeah.
I vividly remember watching Jurassic Park in the theater. I had a lot of siblings growing up, so it was a very rare occasion that a family outing to the movie theater happened. And I remember going to Madison Square Mall, to the theater there, when it was Madison 12, right?
Yeah.
And I just loved that theater so much. And when we would go to that theater, we'd go to the food court, and everybody you'd get to choose what you wanted to have for dinner. I don't know. I vividly remember that and being terrified by raptors, having nightmares that night.
My first memory is also terrifying because we typically went to the
Drive-through?
drive-in. And so I do remember seeing Jaws 2, which is not a Spielberg
that's not
film.
Spielberg.
I have memories of that. But in the theater, I remember seeing E.T. I remember seeing where he rolls the ball.
Did
and
you
the ball
watch it
comes,
like when it recurred? Like, because it came back, right?
Yeah.
Didn't it come back a few times or something?
I don't remember. I was so little. So was I small enough
It
where...
came out 82, man.
I know, but I was
tried-
born... Was I 3 years old? Did my mom take me
But
to see
do you
this?
remember that?
I don't. I just remember the scene where he rolls the ball comes back to him, and he's like, "I'm gonna go see what it was," and I was fucking terrified.
I think that was I think that's The Shining.
No. I was like, "Why would you go see? I would just burn that goddamn building down. There would be no sea." So I just remember being terrified. But I did see Jurassic Park. I would say I've probably seen 50% of his movies theatrically. Once I was old enough to go to the theater, of my own accord. I had a Honda Accord. No, I didn't have a Honda.
Of course you did.
I wouldn't drive a damn Honda. Anyway, I feel bad now. I've offended our Honda. Our Honda
Yeah, I
listeners.
like Hondas, man.
Yeah,
Come
Hondas
on.
are great cars.
Honda's
but
a great
If
car.
anybody's listening, try to backtrack there.
Go get you a Civic.
Go get yourself a Civic. Get yourself a Civic SI. Anyway, we're kind of sidetracked here. Yeah, he's a great director. We have some fond memories of him. We'll probably talk more about Sir Steven Spielberg. I'm going to knight him. We'll knight everybody when we come back on Pop Culture Philosophers. Welcome back to Pop Culture Philosophers. I've calmed down a little bit. We're going to be talking about Steven Spielberg still, the great director. And I'm going to start us off with this segment talking about some of our favorite performances, some of our favorite characters that he's brought to life on the big screen. I'm actually going to start with Drew. Are there some that stand out in your mind? If you could narrow it down to 3, because I know that there's actually trying to narrow it down just a few that's a hard thing to do. He's casted first off, he's worked with some incredible actors, and he's had some iconic roles that he's created or helped create or at least brought to the big screen. Can you narrow it down to 3 that characters or actors or performances that really stand out in your mind?
For one, I got Frank Abagnale, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Catch Me If You Can.
Great role. Again, changed my mind about him.
He is, if you look at it from this context, that movie is the best Peter Pan movie that's ever been made. Huh. And he plays Peter Pan.
Spielberg did direct Hook.
I know.
Just
and
so
Catch Me If You Can is way better.
Yeah,
Oh.
Hook is not the best Peter Pan movie out
I'm
there.
gonna
But
Disagree. We'll move on.
but he like just on the context of like because he's a child and he's just run away and he's fooling everyone just through charm that he learned from his dad, just charming everyone. Like he becomes a lawyer, he becomes a doctor, he's an airline pilot, he's living every child's dream while running away from Tom Hanks. And
that's my dream.
Run away from Tom
Have
Hanks.
Tom Hanks chase me around everywhere.
Just Benny Hill music playing. But after that, I got Oscar Schindler.
I don't know if that was the Benny Hill music, by the way. That you were doing.
After that, I have Oscar Schindler, Liam Neeson in Schindler's List.
Such a great job.
Yeah.
He just watching his transformation going from, I'm just trying to make some money off these people to actually caring, doing every single thing he can to try and save as many people as possible. And then on the flip side, for my third one, Ralph Fiennes as Amon Goth is one of the most evil people that's ever been in cinema.
Yeah.
He
is
just psychotic.
He's got Voldemort beat.
Yeah. Even his own Voldemort. Like, he is a monster. He terrorizes women, children. He's just like taking pot shots with a rifle at a kid who messed something up at his house. Like, he is just, and yet he's like kind of nice to Oscar Schindler. Oscar Schindler's just having genial conversations, but that switch to just one of the most evil characters in cinema is incredible.
Great actor. I mean, Ralph Fiennes is a phenomenal actor, but you almost like, wow, this guy's a piece of shit. You got to separate the actor from the role.
It's hard.
Goldsmith.
Yes.
Can you narrow it down to your top 3 favorite performances or actors or actor performances?
Yes.
Characters.
No. You're yourself an actor.
Yes.
Do you like how we point that out every opportunity?
So I would
do.
like your perspective matters more than these other people. Like Drew's, I'm just going to forget his whole thing just now.
Yeah, it's something about Voldemort
Yeah.
and Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah, and the guy from James Bond.
Well, first off, Robert Shaw as Quint in Jaws is one of my favorite characters of all time.
You sure his name is Robert Shaw?
Yeah.
George Bernard Shaw.
It's Spielbergo.
No, that's his Spanish cousin.
Yeah, he's just. I love that character so much. He's got so many famous lines, his delivery, and it's just a really, really, really natural performance. And I've always loved that character since I was a little kid.
I can't remember if it was Charlton Heston was offered the role of Quint or Roy Scheider's role, but he was offered a role there, and Spielberg's like, no, I don't want him in it. I don't want him in the film.
I can't.
Not like he was like, fuck Charlton Heston. He was just like, no, this doesn't, in my mind, this is not the actor for the role.
Yeah.
The ball's on that guy. Say that to Charlton Heston.
Yeah, he's like, he thought Heston was just brought too much, like was too big. Like, he's like, no, he's like, I want them to be, it might have been the Roy Scheider
It was the
role.
subtlety. I think it was Quint, but I have to look back because it was just such a subtle character. Like, yeah, I love that. And Dustin Hoffman.
What was Quint's full name? Was it Quint C. Jones? Was that his full name?
God damn it.
No.
What was his actual name?
Wasn't it T.S. Quint, right?
It was
T.S.
Quint was his last name.
Yeah. What's Robert Shaw, who's a great actor? We'll move on.
Dustin Hoffman in Hook, fantastic. He really brought that character to life.
And dude, the costume, because he's not the biggest and most intimidating guy. He would probably make a good lady. That's a Tootsie reference. Kind of weird.
Literally, the only part of Hook I really like is Dustin Hoffman's performance.
He does a good job, and he looks amazing in it.
Larger than life.
Yeah, he does such a great job.
That voice, too. Like the accent that he's using.
It's so
great.
Perfect.
That mustache.
So cartoonish.
Yeah, I like that mustache. Maybe I'll be Captain Hook this year.
Dude, you should do it.
Nice. And
I'll cut off your head.
And my third will be Jeff Goldblum as Ian Malcolm, even though he's basically just Jeff Goldblum.
In The Fly. Like, wait, that's not the... Dude, he's great in that, actually.
Yeah.
And when he's flirting with, I forgot
Laura
her name.
Dern.
Yeah, thank you. I forgot her name in the movie, but he's great as the doctor, and he obviously reprises his role if people haven't... Is it...
Sattler, that's her name.
Yeah, is it The Lost
The Lost World.
World. Is that what he reprises? No, he's also in one of the newer ones. He makes a
Fallen
small
World
appearance.
or Fallen Kingdom.
Fallen
whatever,
Kingdom.
yeah.
He makes another
I still
small
haven't seen
appearance.
Fallen Kingdom.
He's in it.
I need to watch that.
I don't think he's in it much, but he's in it.
He's
But,
not in it much.
Yeah, but great actor.
Yeah.
So I'm happy he was in the role.
He wore the
Death
fuck
Row
out of
role.
those leather pants.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, people can't see it, but Goldsmith wearing just leather pants today, nothing else.
That's it.
He's wearing the fuck out of those leather pants.
He's wearing assless chaps. It's weird.
Leopard print.
It is weird.
Robbie.
Yes.
Speaking of
yes, John.
assless chaps.
Yeah. Well, Justin took one of mine, Ian Malcolm. So I'm going to
really?
not say him and instead say E.T.
Oh.
Because E.T. breaks your heart when he's like dying. Like when I rewatched that movie recently, I was like really taken aback about how sad this movie actually is. Like that movie's really sad.
Yeah.
And I have a love of Reese's Pieces since.
Oh, yeah. M&M's was offered the role, you know that,
Yeah.
and they turned it down.
How did they feel? And where are they now?
Gone. No. They're doing okay.
No, I really like, also speaking of Jurassic Park, the T-Rex. One of my favorite characters and performances.
Oh.
Like
Yeah.
seriously, it still looks good. It still
Dude,
looks
the
good.
Jurassic Park holds up really well. A lot of CG from that era does not.
Yeah, but
Jurassic
it
Park,
does.
maybe because we've never seen a dinosaur in real life, so we're like, we can't really tell.
Yeah, because they're supposed to have like feathers and shit.
Yeah,
But,
right?
but
well, we didn't know that. Back
Look
then.
at
yeah.
But I think that the best performance from that has been directed by Steven Spielberg is Daniel Day-Lewis as Lincoln.
As Lincoln.
Oh my goodness, man! Like he is. I mean, he's exactly the Lincoln I remember.
Yeah.
You know,
Or the
you know, so.
Of all the video you've seen of him.
Yeah, I mean, it's just and
The
he's-
whole movies.
He made Lincoln come across so warm and genial, but so like smart and cunning as well, and he really kind of captured everything. And you know, we have this idea in our head of Lincoln being this like this crazy depressive kind of dude,
Yeah.
right? But there was this other side to him, and Daniel did a great job. Daniel, because I know him, friend of the show.
Daniel
And,
Day-Lewis.
yeah, and
Sir Daniel
yeah,
Day-Lewis.
but really captured the nuance of that performance very well. What about you, John?
Yeah, he's a phenomenal actor. I was under the impression that he retired from acting and that he came back out of retirement to do the Lincoln film.
It's because he
Remember
was
that?
visited on the road to Damascus by the ghost of Lincoln. And Lincoln
Oh.
was like, "You've got to do this." Oh, it's his voice, man. He sounds like the grandfather I always wanted, never had.
I heard he was visited by the
Well, that's
ghost
sad.
of the Lincoln lawyer. Which is what's this? Matthew McConaughey. Son of a bitch, you guys took most of mine. So I've got on the list. I've got Robert Shaw as Quint.
Voice.
Tom Hanks as Captain
George Bernard Shaw.
Miller. Tom Hanks as Captain Miller. I mean,
Okay.
it's such a great role, and then they have
Yeah.
that bed over like what he did before the army or whatever, and then before the war.
Yeah,
And,
and
he does
it
such a
turned
good
out
job.
that he was a coach of an all-women baseball team.
Yeah, yeah, and a prolific skateboarder.
Yeah, and he fought a volcano.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then I was gonna say Daniel Day-Lewis as Lincoln, just such a phenomenal job. I can't see anybody else doing it because he's just like, holy shit, man. And then most importantly, the one that stood out in my mind, and somebody who reprised the role several times, Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones. That was his name.
yeah. I'm surprised nobody said
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Goldsmith couldn't
almost
remember the
did.
actor's name, and I was like, it's Harrison Ford. Goldsmith. But weird thing is, he was so adamant about being killed off in the new Star Wars. He didn't want to make more Star Wars films, but he's totally down for doing more Indiana Jones films.
yeah.
I'm
Still,
like, what the fuck, man? Did you not see Crystal Skull?
he also really wants to do another What Lies Beneath.
Ooh.
What lies more beneath her?
6 days, 7 nights. Whatever was that? Was that?
Yeah,
what
That
movie?
was actually
Yeah.
what it was called.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I'm still crossing my fingers for that sequel to Air Force One. Wouldn't actually that would be badass.
It would.
That would be
Air
kind of
Force.
Be like
badass.
retired.
do they call it Air Force 2?
Yeah,
That's the
why
vice
not?
president's plane.
It's just footage of him crashing his plane.
Air
Oh,
Force One,
sorry.
Air Force 1, 2, First Blood, Second Shot,
The Crystal Skull.
something like that. Sylvester Stallone is the of the
Electric Boogaloo.
aliens are
Oh
in
my
it.
god.
He's
Wow,
riding
we
around
really
on a
kind of
skateboard.
It's off the rails.
sidetracked. But speaking of Harrison Ford,
Did you know that he plays a mean cello?
yes, he does.
Does he? Because I just pulled that out of my ass. But it's a good segue into music. So,
I'm sure he plays some instrument. He's Harrison Ford.
I'm going to ask you guys now to list up to 3 of your favorite scores from Steven Spielberg films, because we know that music is very important to cinema. We know this. We
It's
talk
half
about
of
it almost
It's the 50-50
yeah.
thing. It's an eyes and ears.
Yeah, right.
Ears,
it's good.
nose,
That's
and throat.
Good. That's really nice. And eyes and ears and throats. What? So anyway,
That's part of the experience. I eat Reese's Pieces to watch my movies.
okay. Me too. I like Twizzlers.
That was part of the throat thing.
yeah, I
was
get
going
it.
with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned that earlier, but
Yeah.
I seriously, whenever I go to the theater, my go-to is Reese's Pieces.
Yeah, okay, I can dig that. I'm Twizzlers and Cherry Coke.
I don't eat Reese's Pieces at home, though. I eat
Popcorn,
M&Ms.
man.
No,
Yeah, the popcorn at Hollywood though is always stale.
and we also got burned out because we worked in the theater business for how long? I worked at,
Yeah.
3 different
Well,
theaters?
I went and saw Endgame again on a Friday night, and I'm like, "Ooh, it's a Friday night." We're all excited because they're gonna have fresh popcorn, and we saw the popcorn popping, but the dude managed to get the popcorn from the corner that had been there for hours.
Yeah,
And
from
we-
the 70s.
And we worked at that theater, so we know their games.
yeah.
We know there are bags, yellow bags, of popcorn just sitting in supply closets. We know this.
Stale popcorn
really?
is not good.
Why do you keep going there?
I don't get the popcorn,
I get Reese's Pieces.
or when I do get the popcorn, I don't care. It's still popcorn.
Yeah. That's
Anyway,
true.
it's usually
go to
free
that
because of the
theater.
card. Anyway, whatever. Music's very important. In fact,
Wow.
music was one of the reasons Jaws was such a success.
Oh, yeah, that soundtrack.
So, Justin, what are up to 3 of your favorite scores / soundtracks of Spielberg films?
Well, the number one has definitely got to be Jurassic Park because it's one of the best of all time. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's a little sentimental for me,
Yeah.
but all right.
It's no, it's
It's
well,
good.
it's nostalgic too. Like,
Yeah, it's good.
yeah, that's like one of the first movies I remember watching all the way through as a kid. I love the music. Like I even listen to it like out on the boat sometimes,
Oh,
out on the river.
That's nice.
When I see birds going by, that's the first thing that pops in my head.
And you're
'cause
like,
at the
are
end
they
of the movie.
pterodactyls?
Yeah. Hymn to the Fallen from Saving Private Ryan.
Okay.
We played that when I was in the band in high school at one of the concerts, and I fell in love with that.
Nerd.
Yeah. And, of course, the Jaws.
Jaws. Dun-dun,
Dun-dun.
dun-dun. So 2 notes that changed cinema history forever,
No.
right? All right. What about you, Drewski?
Well, a lot of it, this is going to be chalk, so there. Just fell down randomly. There is going to be Jurassic Park and Jaws, which we've covered, but the other one I really like, since I rewatched it, was Schindler's List. It's very like he wanted to go with a more a regionally specific score, so it was wildly different than a lot of John Williams scores before.
Yeah.
But it was very sad. A lot of regional instruments, and just really captured the mood of that time period.
No, absolutely. That's a brilliant score. And John Williams, by the way, has done all of these ones that we've mentioned so far.
Originally, the original cut, by the way, they just used the Superman music in Schindler's List.
Yeah,
didn't
like
they?
This is maybe too
It's a little bit of a tonal
hopeful.
clash.
Yeah.
While they're clearing the ghetto. Yeah.
What about you, John?
I would say, besides the ones you mentioned, I actually love the music for Hook. It's also John Williams.
Yeah, okay.
Hook's has great music. The Indiana Jones films.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones, though, it does remind me of Star Wars in Superman, only in the way that it's this big epic. I don't think they
Fanfare.
sound the same, but they're very epic.
Well, sometimes in my head, I do get Star Wars and Indiana Jones kind of crisscrossed a little bit.
I should
Yeah.
have put that on my list, too. It's way different from Star Wars. It's got the same type of feel, but it's...
But it's a different.
I guess,
yeah.
I guess maybe
Yeah.
since I played a bunch of the video games, like on Nintendo, it's
Oh yeah,
stuck
right
in
now I
my
get
head.
dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun dun dun.
And Close
dun, dun,
Encounters,
dun,
of course.
Oh, Close Encounters.
Yeah.
The music is how they talk to the aliens.
The universal language.
Yeah, man, that's a great.
Music.
That's a great one, man.
Is it
Absolutely.
sex or is it music? What's the universal?
It's music.
Okay.
It's math, actually. For me, they've all been named except for only one of mine have been named, and that's Close Encounters, because the music is so integral to that movie. I love it. Right. I also love the score for Catch Me If You Can.
It's great.
Because that is John Williams, of course, but it's so different than typical John Williams
Isn't
stuff.
it like a bunch of jazzy stuff?
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's so cool just listen to. And the other one is the haunting score of Munich. Like Munich is haunting.
Yes.
And that score is so good, and it helps that movie because that movie is incredibly suspenseful, and the music adds this hauntingness to it. And so, absolutely. And obviously, all these ones we mentioned are John Williams. He did almost every single one of these films for Spielberg. Quincy Jones, I know, did The Color Purple, did a great job on that one. And there's a couple others, probably early, like Sugarland Express.
Wait, the guy from Jaws did the soundtrack.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! But John Williams, he does get pigeonholed into that whole Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Superman, dun 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 dun.
Yeah, we want epic music, but he can do.
Yeah, Catch Me If You Can,
everything.
Munich, Schindler's List. These ones that we've already been mentioning, they're so different. And so, what are your recollections, Drew, of the diverse approach by Williams and his influence and his responsibility almost to the success of Spielberg?
If I watch a Spielberg movie like nowadays, now that I've looked into it, like I just assume that John Williams is doing every single one of his movies. But you're right. Like if I was watching like the same cues you can get from like Jaws, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, you can tell like right off the bat those are John Williams scores. But then you watch a Munich, you watch a Catch Me If You Can, and it's like I'll Google. It's like, damn, I really like the music. I'll Google. And it's like, of course it's John Williams, and it's like it sounded very much not like a typical John Williams scores. But no, he can do anything. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I love it. What about you, Justin?
Justin.
We talk about like the role John Williams played in Steven Spielberg's success.
Yeah. Speak on that.
We just said that this music is, when you hear it, you think of, yeah, that's John Williams, but that's the reason why Steven Spielberg is so big. Not just because his movies are fantastic, but because the scores behind these movies are so iconic now because they were so fresh then. Like they were so unique at the time.
Yeah.
And it became its own style. John Williams is a genre of music.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just John, what do you think?
I go by Johnston now.
Johnston. Johnston and Johnston.
Great. I really think he's the best composer of films, period. Hands down. I don't think there's ever going to be anybody like him. There's some great ones currently. I like Hans Zimmer. There's some other ones that are really good, but I don't think there'll ever be another John Williams. And I think they did work well together. They do work well together. And I think Spielberg's one of those directors that, and a lot of directors know this, but there's some directors that seem to forget sometimes, that the soundtrack is very much a part of the experience, and you want to be, surrounded by this music, not only this visual fantastic treat in this storyline, but the music helps with that so much. And so he's worked with John Williams, but I also think he brought John Williams to a bigger audience than John Williams. I wouldn't say he gave John Williams his break, but I'm saying they've helped each other, and it's really worked out. And John Williams, seriously, I really think is the greatest film composer of all time, and I don't think he's ever going to be surpassed.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going on record.
Absolutely. And I'm sure a lot of people link some of their favorite moments in film to John Williams.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be parts that just, stick with you. Because, again, Spielberg can tie that music with those moments in film. So I just wanted to reach out to you guys and say, to fuck yourself. No. It really got deep, and then it went sidetracked. No, if there's particular moments in particular films that were Spielberg films, so we're going to keep it on track here. I don't care about your favorite Quentin Tarantino moment.
We've done that shit.
We have done that. So how did he, no offense to him, but how the hell would we do a podcast about him before we did Spielberg? Even though he's a great director. They're both great directors.
I think there was I don't even know. There wasn't even a movie coming out.
I don't even remember.
It was a Pulp Fiction anniversary, I think. It was like 25th anniversary.
Okay.
It's that poster on the wall. It's staring at us.
Yeah, it was. It was the 20th anniversary. You're right, yeah. It was the 20th anniversary of Reservoir Dogs or something. I don't know, whatever.
Whatever. We'll just edit all this out.
I think we were celebrating his 20th film.
Yeah, we were celebrating something.
Whatever.
Anyway, Spielberg, I don't know if has anything coming out, but I'm sure he's got something in the pipe. Oh, yeah, he's got West Side Story.
Whatever.
So, who's breathing into the mic like a monster?
I didn't even know that was exhaling. Oh, my bad.
So I'm wondering.
I just look over at Drew, and he's got his nose on the microphone.
It's just nostril flared.
I thought it was him disagreeing with me. He's like,
I was just sighing. Excuse me. So.
Very passively, aggressively.
So I want to talk about our favorite scenes that stick out, or if you can narrow it down just to a couple of them, maybe two or three. And I'm going to start with Justin because he's an actor.
The scene What? The scene when they're landing on Jurassic Park, like coming down next to the waterfalls and everything in a helicopter.
And the music.
Yeah. Dun, 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 na, 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 na. It's
Welcome.
It's so
to Jurassic Park.
Get out the plane, bitch. Oh, they're not
yeah, I
planes,
guess like
helicopter.
just every time that music plays in the movie is just a fantastic, memorable
it's very
scene.
epic, but they only play it. I don't think they overplayed. I remember it being. That's the song. I mean, that's Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
But I already watched the movie recently in 3D. Great. And it's not played as much as I remember it being played, but it's played at the scenes it needs to be played. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's epic.
Right.
But that's a great scene. Any other ones that stand out in your mind? You're
Well,
an actor, so I value your opinion.
Well, the other one that I wrote down, actually, I didn't think about it when I wrote it down, was not related to John Williams at all, because there's no music. It's the USS Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah, we're
scene.
just now talking about our favorite scenes.
Oh, yeah. Well,
We
yeah.
segued in, and I've been stuck in the John Williams, because it's such an epic when they land the helicopter. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm hoping if I ever ride in a helicopter, but I haven't, but when we land, I want that fucking music.
Yeah, same.
I don't want to be eaten by a dinosaur shortly thereafter.
Well, the USS Indianapolis scene from Jaws, when he's telling the story about the...
Oh, yeah, man.
We
And
delivered
they're
the
talking
bomb.
about it.
Yeah.
And the sharks. The sharks.
Yeah, like, I hate monologues, but that's the only one that I've ever tried to memorize. Like, it's just such a good... And Robert Shaw wrote that whole thing, and it was like a 3-page story.
The
And
only
they-
one that's come as close to that is Randall from Clerks when he he talks about he's got the chips. He's like one goes into the water, whatever. He makes a reference
Yeah.
to Jaws.
There's a lot of
course.
Jaws
Yeah.
references
Yeah.
in those Smith.
Kevin
films.
Smith in general.
Well, like, they had it in the script, and it was like a paragraph maybe. And he's
Yeah.
like,
He
I'm
expanded
gonna do this myself. And he wrote like 3 pages, and they're like, that's too long. so he condensed it down to like.
Well,
a
that goes to
page and a
show how
half.
great an actor he is.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to expand upon this and give this character more depth.
Yeah.
Because he is a great character, and he's only in the first film, despite there being all those 4 Jaws films.
Spoilers.
And people thinking they're loving those films. They're not actually. They're not Spielberg films, and they're not good, so I'm sidetracked. But he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's just
That's
a great
one
actor.
of my favorite scenes in any movie ever. Is that?
That's a bold statement.
Yeah. Well, it's my favorite.
Drew Van Stein. Count Drew.
Once again, I tell you to stop giving out my names. No, a couple of moments that stick out. I love at the end of Schindler's List that I could have done more. Oscar Schindler's basically given up his entire wealth to try and buy and bribe to get as many people safe in his factory, and he's about to leave because he's like, Russians are coming. I'm a war criminal. I gotta go. And he starts like looking at all of his possessions, like this pen. He could have bought one more person. This watch could have bought 2 more. This car, and he starts just breaking down like he could have done more and more. And he like at that point like he wanted to be left penniless just so he could help more people. And then the other one I have is in Catch Me If You Can, when Tom Hanks has caught Leonardo DiCaprio in a hotel room. He has him. He has a gun pulled on him. And he gets out of the room, and he's just like, in a span of like 3 minutes, he convinces this FBI agent, "No, I work for the Secret Service. Don't worry about it."
We just got
And it's
here,
like,
man.
I know, and he calls himself, "I'm Barry Allen, Secret Service," and he's like,
Yeah, he does.
he just like points out the window. Yeah, that's my partner helping the old broad into the car, and it's like yeah, she was the culprit, and just it's like hands him like a fake envelope or a fake wallet. And he just like somehow gets out of this jam, and like by the time he's out of the room, like he's gone like the Flash, and it's like there's another half of the movie for Tom Hanks to try and catch him.
That
That's
is
if
a
he
great
can.
scene. God damn it. Robbie,
Yeah.
you're not an actor.
No.
You do have a popular YouTube channel, though.
We have a.
Well,
Well, none of you guys are on the videos.
no.
Yeah.
Not since my incident.
John's also a lawyer, and he was trying to prosecute this mafioso guy, and he threw acid in his face.
Yeah.
And now he wears the Phantom of the Opera mask, but on the other side, where it's not scarred, which is weird.
It's Two-Face,
I just want people to see my scars.
but with the mask also.
Yeah, I took 2 things, combined them together with John.
Is that
anyway,
3 faces?
yeah. The Raptors in the kitchen.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is a
Scene-
great blues song.
The scene terrifies. Yeah, right. Yeah, scene terrifies me. I also like the scene where the T-Rex eats the dude on the toilet.
Holy
Oh, yeah.
shit! The
You gotta
lawyer.
go.
Talk about lawyers.
You got to go. But my favorite scene and moment in a Spielberg film is from Temple of Doom, and it's the dinner scene. It's when they eat
The monkey brain.
the monkey brains and the snakes and the bugs.
oh,
And I was
yeah.
fascinated with that
Yeah.
scene when I was a kid, and I loved watching that movie solely just for that.
That's
Plus,
weird.
I really like Short Round too. So, but yeah, that scene in particular. What about you, John?
I remember Googling that to see if it was real, and Google didn't exist then, so it was impossible. So I just assumed as a child that they actually ate all that stuff. Let's see, it's hard to pinpoint just a few. Let's see, Storming the Beaches of Normandy and Saving Private Ryan.
It's a
Oh,
great,
yeah.
great scene.
It's very graphic, but it just shows you the gravity and how terrifying it is.
Impactful.
Yeah, it is. In other movies that have shown Normandy or Omaha, whatever the beaches, have really tried to recreate that in video games and stuff too, to just show that. And Spielberg hit it out of the gate. Hit it out of the gate. Is that a term?
Yeah.
Anyway,
It is now. If it
Oh.
He
wasn't-
was way back behind home plate.
talk about the T-Rex. when he first shows up and there's the water and the cup, and it's like vibrating the cup.
that whole
Scene when they first see the T-Rex, man, and it's phenomenal. And I'll say it again, there were some movies that came out at a very similar time, like Jumanji, and you watch it and something's off kilt about the lions and stuff like that, because we know what a lion looks like in real life. So it doesn't hold up well. I'm not knocking the film because I love Jumanji, but the CG doesn't hold up well. Jurassic Park holds up phenomenally well, and that T-Rex looks amazing.
It does.
They
And
used
that's
a
a very
lot of animatronics.
that's another thing about Spielberg is he's very successful at suspense in film. He's kind of Hitchcockian in that way, like that scene in Jurassic Park and the raptor scene, right?
Yeah.
The scenes in Munich, even in Catch Me If You Can, there's like so much tension and suspension. Jaws is just an exercise in it, and he's amazing at that. He's so amazing at the craft. He does those low tracking shots in almost every single film, and he's a pioneer, man. He's a pioneer.
He is, and he's also been, luckily, maybe because of the budget of his films, he's really been on this forefront of technology at the time. Like the Jurassic Park, when it came out, these CG dinosaurs, it's never been done like that at the time.
Yeah.
And if you go back further and you look at Indiana Jones, look at a lot of films, Jaws, the big animatronic robot shark they had. I mean, there was a lot of things that at the time had not been done or not been done to that scale. So he's been lucky to be on the forefront of that, but I think a lot of it has to do with the budget, or him hey, I don't want to make sacrifices. I want this to be done this way.
Basically, ever since Jaws, he's been able to do whatever he wants.
Yeah,
I saw
and
an interview where he said,
Yeah.
ever since Jaws, all I have to do is tell him I want to do this, and Hollywood will give me a check.
But it's worked out. It's not like he's for
Yeah.
the most part it's
Yeah.
fired.
I mean, every once in a while, he
backfired.
makes 1941
or Ready Player One.
or The Lost World.
Ready Player One, he still made a lot of money though.
And the last one I want to bring up, still talking about scenes, one of my favorite by far scene of the Indiana Jones trilogy. Yes, I know there's
Trilogy.
a
Yeah, no, you're right.
When Sean Connery is in the plane and they're trying to get away from the Nazis, and he's shooting at them in the plane and he's shooting behind them, and he's he shoots their own tail wing.
Yeah.
And they're going down. He's like, "Son, I'm sorry. They got us.
They got us.
Don't trust her. She's a Nazi.
So it's just so great that he blamed it on them, sort of.
They have a great relationship in that film.
That father
Andy
and
and his
son. That's
father.
the father and son relationship that I want.
Yeah, right.
Except I want to be Sean Connery.
You want to be a dick.
Yeah.
Why don't you
So,
go ahead and adopt you a Harrison Ford?
So,
We named the dog Indiana.
what was his actual name?
Henry Jones Jr.
Oh, Jones. Okay. We're gonna take a break. I think it's time for a break. I need another beer, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about some of your favorite movies. When Robbie reaches out to the social media, to the Facebooks, the Twitters, the MySpace, all that, and we're right back on Pop Culture Philosophers. Steven Spielberg. Welcome back to Pop Culture Philosophers. We're talking about Steven Spielberg. And I think, Robbie, I think you reached out to the old social media, didn't you, and asked the people their favorite
I sure did.
Spielberg films, and I think you were going to share it with all of us.
Yes, all these answers come from the PCP Army, which is our official Pop Culture Philosophers Facebook group. You should join us over at the PCP Army for Pop Culture Philosophers, where you can interact with me, Justin, Drew, Jeremy, Jelani, and a whole bunch of other members of the excitable PCP crew. You can find it on Facebook at PCP Army.
Ooh la la.
Paul says, in answer to the question, what is your favorite Spielberg film? Paul says, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Lance Allen from Dan's Panda Comics says, that's an easy one for me. Catch Me If You Can. Richard says, Jaws. Johnny says, Saving Private Ryan. James Donahoe says, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Finley said, Saving Private Ryan, Hook, Last Crusade, three-way tie. But if you had to choose, it would be in that order. David Hatch, friend of the show, for sure, says Jaws. Clem said Raiders. Jeremy, good old Jeremy Day, member of the excitable PCP crew, said probably Jurassic Park with Close Encounters being just below it. Will Priest said Jurassic Park. Matt says Jaws. Timothy Gorman said Catch Me If You Can. I'm surprised at the Catch Me If You Can.
I'm surprised that it's a good film. I just didn't think it would be people's number one.
Yeah.
Thaddeus says The Color Purple. Declan says it's a tie between Raiders of the Lost Ark and Jurassic Park, though Close Encounters is good too. And Billy Wilburn says Gremlins, which of course is produced.
It is. I don't know if that
By
counts, but it's a
Spielberg.
great film, and maybe it would have never came to be if it wasn't for Sir Steven Spielberg.
So thank you guys for checking us out at the PCP Army. Of course, you can also like the Pop Culture Philosophers page on Facebook, and you can find us at Twitter at The PCP Show and at The Rockin' Robbie.
Awesome. I think there's some great picks there, and I think they'll maybe mirror some of our picks here on the show. We're going to get to the meat of the show, or the potatoes, or maybe this is the dessert, actually. We're kind of wrapping up here. This is the meat?
Yeah.
What's the dessert of the show? Do we not need a dessert?
The dessert is the
after
final
hours.
We need to be healthier.
Oh, yeah.
Just quit eating all those sweets. So we're going to actually talk about our favorite Spielberg films. If we can narrow them down to 5 films in reverse order, 5 to 1. And I'm going to actually start with Drew, your top 5. If you can get it down to 5, it's probably difficult. I have a feeling that Catch Me If You Can might be on that list.
One, you're right, and you're doubly right because no matter what
It's
film,
on there twice.
1, 3, and 5. No, whatever top 5 you choose, you're probably going to bump off a classic.
Yeah, it's hard to narrow it down. He's one of those directors that has such a great career and has made so many great films that this is the first time I ever thought maybe we need a top 10.
Yeah,
And even then, that would be a challenge.
yeah. And personal taste will definitely skew it more than most, because it's like someone's going to be, oh, you left Jurassic Park off, and I did. So number 5.
Oh no!
Wow. Shit just got real.
Number 5, I tried to diversify because I really like Indiana Jones, but I didn't want to put a bunch on here. Like same, I didn't want to put
Every Indiana Jones.
yeah. 5, I have Last Crusade. That's of the 3 movies, 3 of those movies. That's the one I reference the most.
It's the funniest.
It is like it's like I mentioned at work the other day. Like I'd set something down and like a piece of furniture started rocking, and I was like, oh, I don't want the library in Last Crusade. It just started tipping over, and everything like scaring the birds with the and the umbrella. I make that reference all the time.
You know what? Another great Spielberg moment is in Last Crusade, and it's the he chose poorly.
Oh, he chose poorly.
I do that too. There's the and no ticket.
Yeah,
no
ticket.
Yeah, that's what.
Which they use in Dogma to excellent effect.
Yes. After that, I have Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Probably one of, if not the best World War II movie ever made. As far as like the actual war, it was so accurate as far as D-Day and just the actual because I remember my dad asked my granddad, who's a World War II veteran, if he was going to see it. And he was like, "Are you kidding?" It's like, because there were reports of so many people that were World War II veterans. They were like, nope. As soon as D-Day happened, they were like, nope, can't do that, and had to leave the theater. And there's just great moments in that. It's like one of the biggest acts of cowardice when the guy's just at the bottom of the stairs and a Nazi's just up there killing one of his squad mates, and he's just like, just doesn't even do a thing when the guy just goes down and past him.
Yeah. Earn it.
After that, I do have Catch Me If You Can.
What are the odds at your number 3? Catch Me If You Can.
I wanted to put it higher, but I just couldn't budget. I love it. I own it on DVD.
DVD?
Yeah.
What is this, the 50s?
Like, I have Blu-rays of a bunch of the other ones, but it might be one of the only ones I actually own on DVD just because I wanted to have it before the Blu-rays.
Is it not on Blu-ray yet, or you just haven't had a chance to pick it up on Blu-ray?
It's a Spielberg, man. It's definitely on Blu-ray. But 2, I have Schindler's List.
Great film. It's definitely... It's hard... It's one of those films, like, I can watch Jurassic Park 100 times. Schindler's List is not one of those films you keep watching. It's very depressing, but it's a beautiful film.
It's a heavy, heavy movie. It's also 3 hours long.
Yeah.
But it's outstanding. Like, the use of color in that movie, the girl in the red dress, the change of Schindler to becoming so incredibly earnest and wanting to help these people against his friend Goethe, who is just a monster. Who's like, because you get to see a good bit of his actions, and he's just like, throughout the entire movie, he's just very nice to Schindler and just incredibly evil.
I learned recently that was actually a prequel to The Phantom Menace. Did you know that?
That explains a lot. the Jedi versus Voldemort, yeah.
Versus the Nazis.
And 1, Jaws.
Oh, Jaws number 1.
It's the scariest movie ever made.
I seriously, as a child... I was afraid to sit on the toilet because I thought Jaws was going to get me. And I don't remember if we saw the first Jaws in the theater, like if it was re-released, or if it was the second Jaws. I just remember seeing a Jaws in the drive-in.
The music coming out of the toilet.
You say that, but as a child, I really had to poo.
Real bad
hold it
night.
for a long time.
No, it's like I wasn't a child of the 70s, but I don't think that humans were as, like, barely even considered sharks a threat. Like, really considered sharks a threat before Jaws.
Because they're not.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you're more likely to die boating accidents than anything than like that.
I'd
But
be
it messed
willing to
up
wager a guess that say that a lot of people didn't even know what a shark was before Jaws.
Well, and it really messed up beach tourism.
Definitely.
For summers.
And now, like, we have Shark Week as a major enterprise. And it's like there's just this fascination. We don't have Sharknado without Jaws. We don't have the Meg.
We owe it all to Steven and Bruce.
Mm-hmm. That horrible Bruce, the shark.
That's the name of the shark.
Yeah, that worked like 1 out of every.
We got one right over there.
Oh,
next to Clark Kent.
He's got the little tank in his mouth.
Yeah, that's how you know it's Jaws and not just some random shark.
Yeah, or he'd be holding the electrical line if it was the second.
Second Jaws.
Like
the making of Jaws is such a cool thing. Just the fact that thing like barely worked. It's like 1 out of every 1 day out of every 7 it worked. It's like it broke down. Got to shut down production for a little while.
That's why they got rid of the ride too.
Yeah, that's what it was like. I mean, you think about it. You're putting like. This machine in water and it's like having it move around and stuff. And the fact that it was one of the first like big date movies like that too. It's like because it was the first blockbuster. Like everybody went to see that movie. Like my parents went to see it when they were dating, and I
heard you were conceived that very night
in the theater.
You're a Jaws,
I was about to say
baby.
15 years later.
Maybe for Jaws 3.
It was a long time.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So that's a great top 5. I'm happy Jaws made your list. I'm not surprised that Catch Me If You Can made the list, but that's a great top 5. And now I'm curious to hear what Goldsmith has on his top 5 because he is an actor.
An actor.
I have no shame in my top 5.
Your top 5. I bet everything I own that Jurassic Park is in your top 5.
I won't spoil it. I really wanted to fit the Post into this because it's such a really good movie. And I know Robbie said he hadn't seen it. Drew, did you see it, John?
Oh, I saw it. I rented it via the Post. Came to me in the mail.
The Netflix DVD.
I think it's about the Washington Post, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It came with the newspaper. I wanted to fit that on here, but I was really honest with myself, and my top 5
Was it too good to make your top 5?
No, it's not.
Last time you had a film that was too good to be in your top 5.
Watchmen.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, we're not going to forget that.
Yeah. Well,
it's recorded. We recorded.
that was honest too. I have no regrets.
It's your
But
top 5 in reverse order. Number 5.
Number 5 is Last Crusade.
Great film.
Fantastic movie. It was my favorite Indiana Jones movie when I was a kid.
I've watched it 1,000 times. I love that damn French tank. It's a French tank. Or is it a British tank? The tank with the big treads that goes all the way around it.
It's
British.
I believe it was
It's
a German
British.
tank.
I think it's British.
I
think
believe it was a German tank.
I think it was aliens.
with the Germans. Yeah, the relationship with his dad, like you said, like that was really
and
cool.
dude, of all the people to cast, Sean Connery
Yeah.
does such a good job as his dad.
Yeah,
It
they
is
could
such a
remake
great
it
film.
today. That's what they should make the fifth.
I think
one.
it was a missed opportunity not to have that tie-in to Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
I agree.
Yeah.
Or to tie in with Star Wars.
My number 4 is Temple of Doom.
Oh wow, 2 indie films.
Yeah, how
on
weird.
The same. Great film, Temple of Doom. Now, Raiders of the Lost Ark is the first one. So Temple is the second one.
Temple's
correct?
the second one.
I
And,
forget the order
when,
sometimes.
When it came out, George Lucas. Did George Lucas write that?
He wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote
Yeah.
all. Of it,
yeah,
didn't
Yeah, and he was like really upset when it came out because he's like, "This is way darker than I meant for it to be."
he? It was like one of the first PG-13 films, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because they had to come up with a new rating because they were like, it's not an
yeah.
R, but it's
Yeah.
not PG. The
Yeah.
dude's ripping out beating hearts.
Yeah.
Kalima. Yeah,
I remember it being just like not only that, but isn't that also the one with the monkey brains or whatever?
Yeah.
There's certain scenes that just like were super
So-
super dark.
Yeah, and
Great film.
And at like towards the end of the movie, when his like shirt's all ripped up and like you can see his muscles and shit, it's like that. When I think of Indiana Jones, that's what I think of is him like
It's all
at
sweaty.
the mine
Yeah.
cart or whatever with the fucking machete.
Heck yeah,
when-
dude.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
I need to think of a sexy man.
Yeah,
And I'm not thinking of Captain America's ass. I'm thinking of Indiana Jones.
yeah.
But great choice.
My number 3, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
All 3 fucking
Yeah,
well,
I'm
not
being
all
completely
3, but
honest
3
with
of them
myself.
are on this list. Wow.
Yeah. They're like those movies shaped me when I was a kid, man. I dressed like it's legit the reason I wear leather jackets today.
That's why you carry a whip.
Yeah, everywhere.
A whip.
Got it out in Drew's car right now. I'll go swing across the parking lot.
I want to see that before I
Again,
leave.
the
stop bringing up my business.
Raiders, started it all.
Great film too, man.
Yeah, like
Epic.
I don't know when the last time before Raiders was when they did a movie like this that was like those old serial.
Oh yeah, I
Stuff.
know what you're talking about. Yeah, it
Yeah.
scared the shit out of me. By the way, when the one Nazis. Well, remember they open the ark and their faces all melt. But that one Nazi, the one bad guy with the glasses,
Yeah,
when his
it
face
melted
melts,
for like
God,
5
it
seconds.
terrified the shit
Yeah,
out
it
of
was
me.
scary, man.
It's like wax looking.
Yeah, it just like
Yeah.
melts. Yeah, but it just, oh my God. But yeah, just an amazing film. Raiders is just, I mean, it started that series obviously, but it was such a big thing that we give us a nice franchise.
And like the opening scene to that is just when you think about that and all the movies that came before it, like it's really different. Like in the jungle and like this guy's in a cave and then there's a big fucking ball that's rolling down chasing it. Like where'd that come from? That is really unique for the time. My number 2 is Jaws. This was a big decision for me because Jaws is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
And my number 1 is Jurassic Park.
Of course. I
Yeah.
knew it.
Yep.
Yeah, you knew it. That's why I went ahead and went to that. It was a toss up for me. But
Really?
Jurassic Park, yeah.
I didn't know you were that big a fan of Jaws, to be honest with
Yeah.
you.
I've seen it. I've seen Jurassic Park way more
Who
times
would win in a
than
fight,
Jaws.
a T-Rex or Jaws? They're in the water, though.
And how deep is it?
It's up to T-Rex's his chin.
I think a T-Rex.
T-Rex, I think maybe.
Oh, but he's wearing a life preserver. The T-Rex.
As soon as you said a butt, I saw Justin's mind.
There's a GIF that I'm going to tell you guys to look up later.
Maybe we'll link it on the bottom of the show. But
That's a really good top
That
five.
is a great
Yeah.
top 5.
Filled with blockbusters.
I knew Jurassic Park would be.
Yeah,
your number one.
man. When I was a kid, my grandma lived
At Jurassic
around.
Park.
She lived around an hour away from us, and like whenever we went to visit her, I would just like look out the window and play that movie in my head. The first half on the way there, and the last half on the way back. It's like that sounds like I'm on the spectrum or something, but
You're not very
I
creative.
remember
You
doing
just
that when I was a
replay
kid.
that. You didn't have like a portable DVD player or something as a child?
Not in 1994.
They had portable VHS players.
Yeah, I had
You guys
one.
were peasants.
We had one in
clearly.
our minivan with our.
Ooh.
Yeah, we had a 13-inch in there. I'm just kidding.
Damn it.
But that's
I
my
thought
top
you were
I
five.
living
think my
the high
cousins
life.
did though. That's a good top 5.
My cousins did
Thank
too.
you.
Everybody's cousins had a van with a movie player, but we didn't. That
It
is
seems
great
like a
top
cop out
five.
because it's all the blockbuster or most of the blockbusters.
I'm actually
but-
surprised how much indie took over your top 5.
yeah. I almost condensed that and put like the Post and ET in.
How could you not like Indiana Jones though? You know,
Right?
And Harrison Ford does such a good job in the role.
Classic.
Iconic role. And I'm interested to hear you, Robbie, your top 5 in reverse order, if you can narrow it down to 5.
Well, and now it's time for the obligatory. This was a very hard top 5 to do. Out of all the other top 5s we've done, this one was really difficult.
Well, it really was. I mean, I say that a lot, and sometimes I'm just
No, I know. I say it every
Joshing with
single.
people,
I
but,
see it every single
yeah.
episode. All right, number 5, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom from 1984. From 1984. Like I said, I've talked about it before. I love that dinner scene. I love the heart scene. I love so much about that movie. I love Short Round. When I was a kid, that was perfect.
Oh,
for me.
those damn carts! I wanted to ride in those
That's
carts
a
so bad.
Great finale. Great Act 3. I love that film, and I know that it's one that Lucas and Spielberg don't really like anymore. You know, because they think it's too dark for what it is or whatnot. I'm like, you guys got people's faces melting off in the other films. Come on, it's not too dark,
Yeah.
right? I don't know. I love it, though. Number 4 from 1985, The Color Purple. I think showing the versatility of Spielberg, doing something really grounded, very real, getting such a great performance out of Whoopi Goldberg, out of Oprah Winfrey, Danny Glover. Just such an amazing cast
Great
in
cast.
the film.
Oh, yeah.
And just the whole thing. And one of the few films not composed by John Williams. It's Quincy Jones from Jaws. And but I love The Color Purple, and every time I watch that movie, it makes me cry. And that scene when Whoopi Goldberg is about to cut Glover, and she's like, you know, you're gonna listen to me now or like everything you think is gonna crumble. Oh my goodness, man, that's
It's a great cast. It's a great film. I'm happy it made someone's top 5.
number 3, 2005's Munich. I think Munich is one of the most underrated and forgotten films. Like I know
It's a great film. I recently rewatched it. I fucking forgot Daniel Craig was in it.
Yeah,
James Bond is in that movie.
and Eric Bana's in it.
Yeah, it's got a great cast.
It's got a great cast.
Eric Bana is great. in that
Eric
movie.
Bana. I remember, like certain people I remember vividly, but for some reason I didn't remember Daniel Craig was that. He's got blonde hair in it.
I mean, he's blonde.
Well,
Okay, but
he's more long.
no, but it's
longer. I should say.
the nuance in that film where it could simply just be about revenge, you know, because it's about the covert Israeli mission to take out the PLO after the 1972 bombing in Munich at the Olympics, right? But they add so much through that character, especially that Eric Bana plays. Like, he's got his family, he's conflicted about what he's doing. Like, is he doing the right thing? But this is what his country's wanting to do, and it's suspenseful. It just keeps you on the edge of your seat. I just think
He
it's
would be a
really-
great Hulk.
Yeah, I think so. He's already named Bana.
Yeah.
Number 2, 1993's Jurassic Park. I just don't think that. I think that's the best dinosaur movie ever made. It's one of the best films ever made in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's just such a great film. I love it. Raptors terrify me. Great special effects, great performances. Sam Neill.
Oh, Sam Neill
Come on,
fucking
man.
rocks it, man.
My favorite, though, number 1, 1977, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh, I know you're a Close Encounters fan. I knew it would be on your
I'm a
list.
huge fan of that. I
yeah.
love science fiction, and one of the themes that Spielberg likes to talk about is this childlike sense of wonder and this calling to do something better, do something great. Now, when you really break it down, this is the story about a dude who leaves his family to go off into space. Like, maybe it's not. Like,
Can you watch the film without not wanting mashed potatoes? That's my question.
Man,
too.
I love, like, seriously, like, and every time I eat mashed potatoes, I usually make a reference, and people are like, "What are you talking about?"
What the? How would you not know that film?
And I want to make was it Devil's Peak or whatever it is?
That's a real mountain that does have some flat
I
plateau.
love Richard Dreyfuss in that film. He's crazy, and he's a man that is enraptured with an obsession, and it's an alien film that's not about aliens coming down. And that's another thing I like about Spielberg is usually, aside from films like War of the Worlds, you know, is the aliens are kind of friendly usually, and it's a very hopeful, this childlike sense of wonder. And Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the music, the look, like it builds up to such a crescendo at the moment that we see the ship. And it's just that ship is just always ingrained in my head. It's one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. I love it. And the original theatrical version is probably my favorite. There are like 2 other ones.
Yeah,
but,
like a TV edit or something like
yeah,
that.
then like a final cut or something. But yeah. But there you go. That's my top 5.
That's a great top 5. That ship really is like what I think of when I think of like an alien ship. Like that's what it has to look of. It has to be that beautiful glowing
all
lights
those colors,
and design. That is the quintessential spaceship.
Quint C. Jones.
That's a great top 5, and let's see if I can top it. Who's got money? No, that's a great top 5, man. I think we might have some parallels in our top 5, but we don't. So I'll go with my top 5 real quick rundown, and one might surprise you, shock you. One might hook you with anyway. I might have had too much to drink. Okay, my number 5 is Hook. I don't understand if people don't love Hook. I think it's a great cast. It's great music. It's John Williams. This whole concept of doing a Hook, a Peter Pan sequel sounds like so. I'm like, why would you do that? But it works. It's a great cast. When he realizes who he was, he goes back and sees his home or whatever when he was Peter Pan. The whole thing, man, it just hits me.
I'll tell you what, man. That movie shows Peter Pan to be a complete irresponsible piece of shit who is responsible for Rufio dying. He's responsible for these kids dying. That's a terrible thing.
I saw a recent video of him, and Rufio is still alive.
You know, we the unsung hero of Hook. We always talk about Dustin Hoffman or Robin Williams. What about good old Bob Hoskins?
Shmee.
As Smitty.
Yeah. Love Bob Hoskins. Bob Hoskins seriously is one of my favorite actors of all times. So I'm happy he's in the film. I love the film. I think it's underrated. Love it. I remember actually walking to the theater and seeing this film. And there's only 2 movies I remember walking to and then remembering and sticking with me, and that was one of them. The other one was Edward Scissorhands. But some reason Hook stuck with me for a while.
You got to think about people with sharp objects for hands.
Oh, yeah, apparently. Enough to walk down to the theater for. Number 4, believe it or not, Jaws. Jaws didn't make my number 1.
Wow.
And I love Jaws.
I have no idea where your list is going now. Are there top 3
all the Indiana
Jones movies?
I think Jaws the music's great. I've watched the film. I can't remember how many times I've watched the film. I actually do enjoy, even though it's not a Spielberg film, the second one. I don't think the second one's bad. We won't talk about the third and the fourth film.
You have mentioned the second Jaws more than you have the first Jaws tonight, I think.
I think now...
You want to do a whole show on Jaws 2?
My memory is now going to this... when I said going to the drive-in, I 100% now remember that the second one was what I saw at the drive-in because how they kill him with the electrical line.
Yeah.
So I did see that one.
And you saw the third one at the drive-thru.
Yes. I was at a Wendy's.
That's why you didn't get the experience.
Where were you?
I was at Cookout. My number 3 is going to be Jurassic Park. I remember how big it was to see it in the theater, and after you left the theater, I could not fathom that dinosaurs weren't real because they did such a good job of bringing them to life.
No, they were real.
They weren't, but they currently didn't walk among us. I should say
fictional
that.
creatures.
They did such a good job of bringing it. It's also, we talk about the great CG, but there were some practical effects used, including when they're the breathing. What is is it the T-Rex that's lying there?
The Triceratops?
Or Triceratops.
Oh, yeah.
It is Triceratops. Yeah. And then the part that we didn't talk about, we talked about famous scenes, and the scene that probably changed me forever.
Sure.
Jeff
Goldblum.
When Laura Dern is going through that poo.
I was going to say, like, the butt scenes.
I thought he was going to talk about Dr. Malcolm without his shirt on. Unbuttoned shirt. They made a pop of that.
Are you
him
serious?
laying there, yeah.
They made a statue of that in
Yes, I saw that.
London?
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere overseas.
Yeah.
It is funny now, like, looking back at it, it's like, now that we can, like, CG and try and figure out, like, what dinosaurs actually look like, they are nothing like they look like in Jurassic Park.
Well, what we found out much later on is they all had tuxedos. And we didn't know that back
Yeah.
then.
we did
Raptors,
not.
just birds.
And they were way small.
Yeah, very
small.
tiny.
Yeah.
Still
huge erections, which they don't talk about.
Those aren't tails.
Dragging the ground. Let's go.
Speaking of erections, my number 2, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, hell yeah.
So that was obviously the first Indiana Jones film that gave us Indy. And I actually love all the Indiana Jones films. Crystal Skull Light is my least favorite, but I actually don't hate the film.
Did you say Crystal Skull Light?
Crystal Skull. And I think I paused.
Is this a powdered lemonade?
Yeah, that is. All right. I like Crystal Skull.
It comes in a skull, and it's a light beverage. It's got amino acids in it.
And brains.
Brains. Monkey brains.
Extracted from amber.
But I do love Raiders of the Lost Ark. I love Indiana Jones. Who doesn't like Harrison Ford? I've never met somebody who's like, oh, Harrison Ford's a piece of shit. People seem to talk about him fondly.
There's this one dude I know that just hates Harrison Ford.
Who?
Does he work at the airport where he crashed that plane?
Just joking. It's Tom Hanks.
Oh, what the fuck?
My number one, and this is hard
The Terminal.
to get down to number one.
I just had to say it. Nobody's
Yeah.
mentioned that film yet.
Saving Private Ryan.
Ah,
right.
yeah.
I just think that it's a beautifully shot film. It's a great cast. It's just so the Normandy. It's an epic film, and Spielberg did it the only way Spielberg could did it. The special effects were phenomenal.
that
and-
cast, man.
Dude, the cast.
Matt Damon.
Like Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in it the whole film.
Tom Sizemore.
Who was it that played the sniper in that movie?
Tom Sizemore.
Ah.
I don't know. I'm just. It was Steven Spielberg,
Yeah, his
his
cousin.
Spanish cousin.
Yeah. It's got a great cast. I can't remember half the people in it, other than Tom Hanks.
It's a bunch of white dudes that were
Yeah.
in films in the 90s.
Oh, I think Giovanni Ribisi is in it.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, it's got a good cast. Go back and watch it, and there's even people that make bit scenes, and you're like, oh shit, he's in it. I forgot. It's got a great cast. Of course, I think no matter who you are as an actor, no matter what level of an actor you think you are, if Spielberg wants you to be in something, even if it's a cameo, you're like, fuck yeah.
You know that the nerd from Dazed and Confused that got his ass kicked by Nicky Katt's
Yeah,
in it
he's
too.
in it.
Yeah.
Brian
Yeah.
Pepper. Is that the dude's name?
Oh, that guy. Yeah, he's in
skinny
he's
dude.
in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking of.
I like him.
I do
Barry
too.
Pepper, not Brian Pepper.
Barry.
Barry Pepper?
Yeah.
Barry
Okay.
Pepper.
Giovanni Ribisi.
Yeah.
That's who I was trying to think of. He was the,
Yeah, we just
the
said.
dude with the. I was looking it up. I didn't
Yeah.
hear you.
I thought Barry Pepper was like a new Dr. Pepper flavor at first.
Yeah, it's half. that
Adam-
sounds delicious. It has a little bit of raspberry in it.
Adam Goldberg.
They're going to hear this, and they're going to
Yeah, we just said that.
Ted Danson. You didn't
yes,
say that.
Ted Danson.
He's
He's
got a
in
very
it.
small
Paul
part.
Giamatti.
Bryan
Bryan
Cranston.
Cranston was in it.
Yeah, he's the guy that tells like he's
And
in
Nathan-
he's in the group that's like, oh yeah, go get this guy home.
And Nathan Lane.
Nathan Fillion.
No, Nathan Lane.
Wow, that's impressive. Oh, you know who else is in it? Tom Hanks.
Oh, duh.
Oh, yeah. And old Matt Damon.
And Matt Damon. Old and young Matt Damon.
Hey, the guy that plays Moriarty in the BBC Sherlock series is in it.
Yeah.
You're going to lose your laptop privileges in about 2 seconds.
This is your number one. We're trying to stretch it out for you.
Goldsmith, you're an actor. So that was my top five.
That's a respectable top five.
It's hard to
Yeah.
narrow down a top five. I think that it may change a week from now or 2 weeks from now. He's got such a great. Really, I think I do say this is hard to do a top. Sometimes I bullshit. I'll be honest with you guys. If you're listening to me, sometimes I phone that shit in, but not this time. It was hard to get a top five, but these are films that are near and dear to me. I'm not saying these films are better than Schindler's List. These are films that I personally have enjoyed more.
Yeah, I didn't
or
have
I've
Schindler's
rewatched
List on my
more.
list because
It makes me sad.
yeah, good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he's
It's heavy. Of course,
Yeah.
I had Munich in mine, but whatever.
Also, but shorter.
but
Yeah.
but such a great director. And again, if it's one of those directors that you struggle for a top five, I think we'd struggle for a top 10. That means you're a hell of a director.
Yeah.
And we're not just blowing goats here.
Do you know
Is that the movie with George Clooney?
All right,
the
Is that
men
a
who
term?
blow goats? Schindler's List. He actually got the rights to the novel, and he held on to it for like 10 or so years before he
think he
felt
was
like he
ready.
was ready to. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
didn't he get the rights from the other director? What's his name? He traded. Was it Cape Fear or something? What's his name?
Scorsese.
Yeah, he had
Did
some
he?
sort of trade deal. We talked about that.
Really?
Did you not watch our top five that we did?
Oh yeah.
We even mentioned that.
We also didn't mention AI, which he did
Kubrick film.
kind of finish for
Yeah,
Kubrick.
and I really like AI.
They shoehorned aliens in at the end.
Yeah, if we had more than five, AI would have made my list. I think
Really?
I think it's criminally underrated.
I don't think it's a good film.
I like it.
I
I like
I'm also a
Minority
big-
Report more.
I'm a
someone
big
give me a
Kubrick.
glove so I can slap John
I'm a
across
big
the face.
Kubrick fan.
I am too. Kubrick didn't direct that film. It wouldn't have ended the way it
But
did
it's-
if it was Kubrick.
It's The first half feels very Kubrickish.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. As soon as he, like, goes into the bottom of the ocean or whatever the fuck, and he's just dead, right? That's where Kubrick would have ended it.
You're probably right.
But then this giant baby would have descended from the sky. Anyway, so Spielberg, we've celebrated the life and times of Steven Spielberg this entire
Great
evening.
director.
Great director.
Successful director. Still kicking
Stop
ass.
stepping on my lines, John. What are your final thoughts on Spielberg and why he's so important? Justin, you're an actor.
Oh, damn. All I had prepared was the Jurassic Park butt gif. Google images that, you guys. It's hilarious.
It's one of the funniest gifs I've ever seen in my life.
All right, that's a nice final thoughts. What about you, Drew? Why does he matter?
Well, more so than the GIF. You talked about like the childlike sense of wonder, and it's like if you watch any of those movies, even though if they were made in the 70s or 80s, you feel exactly like you're seeing them for the first time a lot of times, because that childlike sense of wonder, it's like, wow, like I know that Jaws, I know that shark like barely works, but it is so horrifying and intimidating, just destroying the boat.
It made the movie better.
Yeah.
Because they had to like use less of the shark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the like he gave us our definitive view of what dinosaurs look like, which changed cinema and just the world landscape for years. And now scientists are be like, they don't look like that. And they're like trying to, and we're just like, shut up, you get back in the lab.
Someone will remake it one day, right?
Dinosaurs have felt. Yeah, shut up, nerd.
I love how the even in the current Jurassic Park or Jurassic World franchise, they're just like, yeah, we know, but we're just going to make them look like Jurassic Park.
Well, then they also, in the Jurassic Park movies, because they're missing part of the actual like foundation. They're like, well, this is what we extracted from a mosquito, so we're using a lizard or a frog
using
or
reptilian
something.
DNA,
to fill in the holes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So maybe that would explain. Yeah, we'll use that.
Sure, we'll use that. Just like what Drew was saying, that sense of wonder, and I think one of the best things about Spielberg is he's given rise to this like cool giant blockbuster escapist film type stuff, but he's done it with finesse, he's done it with style, he's done it with craft, with expert craft, like just an amazing filmmaker. And it's more than just about special effects and great big music or great actors and performances. It's about him and his own sense of wonder that he had when he was a kid making films with his dad's 8mm camera. And he's always maintained that, and that's why even at 70-something years old, he still has the vigor and enthusiasm of a child. And I think we all need to fill that pool and be a child every once in a while. Spielberg helps us do that.
I remember going to the theater as a kid and it being such a big deal, and and we usually avoided getting snacks because of the cost, but just that epicness of going to the movie theater, and Spielberg is a part of that. And so I think we talked about recently, there's been this talk of with surround sound, and we'll be able to get your projector at your own house, and I have a projector, that the theater is going to die off, that it's going to be more straight-to-home movies and more Netflix. And we've seen that, but we've also seen the summer blockbuster. Look how much Endgame, the new Avengers, made. So I think that he's a part of that big summer blockbuster. I mean, he gave us a blockbuster, but I think it's a part of, going to that theater, that experience, being taken. It's hard. I hate to say it, but there can be a great movie on Netflix, but it's hard to always get in it because you're stopping because you have kids, you're stopping to let the dog out, you're stopping to, when you're actually in the theater and you get in that film and you're taken to this other world, that's so important. It's really it's the most important thing, I think, to have that, because some people, I hate to say it, but a lot of people, unfortunately, don't have perfect lives. They have a shitty job or they got a bad family life, etc. So it's good to have that escapism, and I think films are important to that. Thank God for Spielberg and the directors he's influenced. So I think if we keep going to the theater and enjoying these films, we're going to have great films made. Don't go and support shit films, but it's important to go to the theater. Really, I keep the theater business alive and just enjoy it, man. I still like going. I don't go as much as I used to, sort of, because when I worked at the theater as a kid, we had free tickets. But I still go and just go to that, go enjoy that experience, enjoy that escapism, keep theater alive, and just, and keep Spielberg alive. You know what I'm saying? As long as I don't care. I mean, I know he's older.
As long as we're watching his films, he'll stay alive.
Yeah, I know he's an older
He is
director.
now a god.
But just going to the theater and because he gave us the summer blockbuster. Go to the summer blockbuster. Go and see Avengers. Go and enjoy the escapism because that's something he gave us, and I want everybody to experience that. And don't take that for granted. So go to your local theater. That's the whole gist of this. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. Next episode, we're going to talk about the X-Men. I was going to say the uncanny. I was going to say fantastic, but that's not. It's not the X-Men. The uncanny, the incredible.
You had
the amazing.
you had a dozen different descriptors for the X-Men you could have chosen.
Yes, go. We're going to talk about the X-Men on film, the comic books. We're going to talk about the great animated show, actually. All things X-Men. So tune in, and we'll talk about the X-Men. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll check you next time when we talk about the X-Men. This is I was going to say Rockin, Robbie, Billups. I'm not. I'm Hammertime, Holshoe. And thanks for joining us, Drew. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Stop pointing at me.
Thanks, Justin. You're an actor. Thank you. No. I have no segue out of this. Why don't you act us out of this?
Shut. Bye, everybody.
You dig.